What is up, my friends? Welcome to a new video. Let's catch up on some macroeconomics that is going on right now, and let's have a little chat. I've got 6 or 7 sources here to share with you and kind of talk through this. I want to get back into discussing some macro with you on a regular basis on this channel. So first off, the most by far glaring issue that any blue check mark or economist or news site has an issue with is the fact that the federal spending is what seems to be so out of control. The national deficit is so high, crossed over $24 trillion now in deficit. The Fed has just been stacking on slabs of debt month by month, and a lot of people are wondering, when is this going to end? Now, that brings me to today, which just happened, I think, like within the last hour, is Mnuchin was chatting with CNBC. What is this, the morning, morning, whatever, financial talk. And what he's talking about, and I really want to discuss this for a second, is there's a quote here in the headline: "Now is not the time to worry about the fiscal deficit." And, you have a lot of people who will make snotty and, trolling remarks about this, but to a degree it's correct. I mean, let's assume that, for the most part, the general public is still all on board with the fact that this is a disaster from China, the virus, and it's a global pandemic, and this is insane and crazy, and it's never happened before. And regardless if it's real or made up, it's never happened before. So it really doesn't matter. Well, in our documented history, anyways. So a lot of times, you do have to leverage your tools and do things that you wouldn't normally want to do. And I feel like I'm talking common sense here, but it becomes so nuanced because everyone wants clout on social media. Is that, like, look, in dramatic times, you got to do dramatic shit. And that's kind of where we are right now. So the United States is going to be spending more than it wants to. It's going to spend more than it thinks it should. It's going to do things that it would never do in a normal circumstance. And so it's so easy for armchair quarterbacks to get in here with snotty comments and talk shit, really, is because they're not the one in the chair, first and foremost. They're not the one with the pressure, and they're not seeing, what really can be done because they're not on the inside. There's a lot of stuff we know on the outside, but there are serious walls around, a lot of the inner workings of the monetary system in America. And so we can only make assumptions and, based off the data we've got, talk about it. But today, as you can see here, the markets are up. They were up pre-market, and they're doing pretty well so far. But there is pressure, and there's a lot of pressure put on Powell's speech this week, which we'll talk about in just a second. But the 10 stocks that have accounted for 50% of the gains in August so far, the 7.2% return, were the Fandangos, what you would expect. Tech stocks, which have completely now taken over, and that's where most people clearly have their money. I see Hathaway down here, Berkshire. And that's where people clearly have their money, and that is what's driving all of the gains, regardless of earnings at this point. And, earnings calls, they're for the most part up, all right? And that's where most people have their money sunk. So, Powell, I think the Fed is supposed to hold something this week. I don't think it's a FOMC. Yeah, they've just got, I don't know, looks to be some sort of announcement or meeting coming up, and there's a lot of pressure now on Powell because, unfortunately, I think Trump can be blamed for this a little bit, as well as, a lot of talking heads, is that the economy is now deeply connected to the stock market, like job numbers and how good we're doing, and this turn around the bend is now deeply connected to the stock market. And I get why, is because you've got a lot of people out there, a lot of mainstream media trying to say everything's bad, everything's bad. It's an easy thing to point at, to say, well, look, the stock market's up. That being said, it's really crazy to think about for a second. We talk about this conversation of inflation, is we've got a market that has taken a global pandemic. It's taken, almost 40 million people in unemployment. It's taken record highs of everything and completely discredited it and given us an all-time high stock market. We saw similar in 1991. We saw similar in the 2006 to 2008 great financial crisis. That happens. So the thing you got to ask yourself when you're evaluating the market, the simple way to look at this is what would actually bring down this market right now? Because, you look at the blue check marks and all day long they're talking about, oh man, any day now, any minute, everything's going to fall. No, it's not that simple. You got to really ask yourself, like, if all those things were discredited, a global pandemic for the first time in over 100 years, the stock market was still going up. March 23rd was, at this point, our local bottom, okay? So if the market's discrediting all these other factors that are insane and crazy, what will bring it down? And that's the question you got to ask yourself. And if you can't think of an answer, well, then you can assume it just goes up. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk about basic income for just a second, but I want to come back to that. Here we go. Okay, so just looking through some old headlines. This was back in July. Almost 30 million in the U.S. didn't have enough to eat last week. So this was really concerning because, again, talk about discrediting data. And the height of this thing is they had surveyed 249 million people, household pulse survey, and roughly 23.9 million indicated that sometimes not enough to eat. That's insane. That's insane. And keep in mind our March 23rd bottom. So by July, yes, all this stuff was being discredited. All this data was being discredited. Pretty crazy, right? And this is a new piece of data from the 8th. I want to touch on this before we get into basic income, and that's where we'll end it. Is obviously with record low rates on mortgages, we've seen a skyrocket in refinancing. That was to be expected. We've seen that over the last couple of months. It makes sense for people who aren't past the first 7.5 to 8 years of their mortgage. I would say it makes total sense to refinance. But if you've already passed through the primary first half that's loaded with amortization and interest that goes towards not principal, if you've made it past that, it probably isn't that valuable to get refinanced for 1% or 2% more because it restarts that amortization schedule. But anyways, this is pretty crazy too, is about 2.25 mortgages were at least 90 days late as of July, a 450% increase from pre-pandemic levels. So again, talking about things that the market is discrediting to create all-time highs, holy cow, 450% increase on serious delinquency. 90 days considered serious delinquency because they're really close to going into foreclosure. So that's according to Black Knight Inc. And what was the other number I was looking for? Yeah, a record 1.1 trillion in loans originated in second quarter. So we've got a lot of new loans being created. Now the question becomes, if we can't get people back to work, this will all just become very toxic, very, very quick. Is you refi a mortgage, and then if something happens and you can't pay the debt, then this becomes really toxic debt really quick. And again, we're restarting amortization schedule, so all that's going towards interest in the beginning anyway. All right, let's wrap this up here. And so this, I think this is older, April 13th. So again, Seeding Consciousness, World Economic Forum, which is one of the grossest, nastiest three-letter agencies, global agencies out there, is they just talk crap. They talk a bunch of crap. And it is just an agenda mouthpiece, is what I feel like. If you just look through their site and look at what they're about and who they take funding from, it's... anyways, so they were really quick on this one, April 13th. What were we, like a month into it? We got to start talking about this why we need global basic income. Here's the thing. A universal basic income is gross because not only does it encourages you to be lazy, it encourages you to think, well, I've got this safety net, why should I take risks? There is no boats to, you've got the safety boats. There's no risk for you to continue to be lazy or to start to be lazy. And that's exactly where I feel like some of these agencies want you. I do feel like there's an underlying agenda, if we want to call it that is encouraging us all to give away our power, give away everything to a government or to Big Brother, whatever you want to call it, right? Give away our power to someone else and just say, oh, they're going to take care of me. They're going to fix all this. No, dude, I want to take care of myself. Nobody's coming to save me. God's not coming to save me. The president's not coming to save me. Nobody. I can save myself, and I want to save myself. This isn't a very empowering narrative. It's a disempowering narrative that gets everyone to just be living off the teat. So look at the support for this. April to June of 2019. So I'm sure this has changed. I don't know if Gallup's put up more recent data. But in the US, it was by far the lowest support of basic income. But in the UK and Canada, of course, Canada has a socialist, let's call it, healthcare system. They've got a government-run healthcare system, which isn't that great, by the way. It's really not that great. Sweden's is good, but Canada's isn't. And so I just think this is interesting. I don't think this is the direction to go, unless there was some mechanism in there that I can't see that empowers people. But from what I can see is you look at welfare, you look at food stamps, you look at the communities that those support, you look at the lack of support that those communities actually get. They just get pawned off, and they, look at how toxic the whole scenario is. We have houses of, women that are like running kid camps. Each head that they've got, they get a certain amount of money from the government every single week and every single month. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just this, it creates this environment that's not really healthy. It doesn't raise healthy kids, doesn't raise, strong people. It tends to go the other way. And I'm willing to be wrong on this, but I just don't think that this is a good direction for us to go. And I think it's a delusion. So yeah, here we've got somebody who's probably got, PhD after his name that's going to get on, over and over and over again, all these videos, all these articles for months now, for years. They're going to talk about it so that they can point back and say, yeah, see, we've been talking about this. We need to push this. We need to roll this out. And the more that they do it over time, the more acceptable it will be. It's always baby steps. Remember that. It's always baby steps. So I don't think this is empowering. I don't think it's good for the people. I think it's good for lazy people right now, and people that feel like they don't have options. But pressure does an amazing thing at getting us to wake up against our own shortcomings and against our own inner turmoil, I guess. So I think pressure is a good thing. I think having to fend for yourself is a good thing. And this strips away a lot of that, and that creates strong individuals. That creates really polished people. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like it, share, comment, click the like button. A bunch of you are still not subscribed. If you like this sort of thing, we'll be doing it on a regular basis. You can expect 2 to 3 videos a week. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell notification. Be on the lookout for the next one. See ya.